Storylines. Kind of an interesting one. This morning here. And Coach, you let us off with this right out of the gate, so let's just get right to it. Jay Monahan, I guess, had a little bit of a press conference today and addressed the ongoing situation with Bryson DeChambeau and fans calling out, "Hey, Brooksie," like that. And apparently now the tour is going to start using that as an opportunity to eject fans because it has become disruptive to play.
There's a lot of people that are at fault here. I mean, it's just like there's nobody you can say, yep, they did the right thing here. This could have been very, very easy if 3 months ago or whenever this started, 4 months ago, Bryson's team would have said, Bryson, go in front of a camera and say, it's no big deal. I don't care what Brooks does. It doesn't get to me. We've never seen one interview, not one, guys, of Bryson saying, it's not a big deal. And he wants to be beloved so badly. He wants to be the baby face of the PGA Tour, yet he's the heel. You got to have a good baby face and a good heel. He's a great heel. I would tell Bryson, embrace being a heel. But where it's got to now is that the commissioner and the tour have said it's bad. And it got really bad on Sunday, despite the fact it may have been the best show of golf we've ever seen when it comes to two guys and how they finished. And now it's a very, very slippery slope, because now are you going to do it to other guys? If other guys yell something at another guy, is it just going to be the Bryson rule? To me, this is a very, very slippery slope that could have been nipped in the bud if Bryson's team would have said, kill it. Just kill it. And that's where I place the blame, is on Bryson's team and the fact that he didn't get it done 3 or 4 months ago, and now it's let it fester, and now it's festering to the point where the commissioner has to step in.
Mark, you're out there on a regular basis. You were out there when there were no fans. You are out there as the fans are coming back. The enforcement of this, I think, is going to be fascinating, because I'm not sure exactly how you enforce this. I'm not sure if there are law enforcement that when they hear something are grabbing people, or if Bryson has to point somebody out specifically, or I don't know how this go. What do you envision with this, knowing how the crowds move? There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people yelling a lot of different things. It seems like an enforcement headache.
Not really, because just about all of the PGA Tour's blue chippers have at least 2 security people with them. There'll be a police person in uniform, and then you'll have the PGA Tour security staff, and they are always basically shadowing the groups that are going to have, big galleries. The Tiger especially. Tiger will have his own security detail, and then the tours, and then the police folks present, and then Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, they've all got security that travels along with them. And these folks, there's someone always walking right inside of the rope line. That's the armed police officer. And he or she is sort of there to keep the peace a little bit. You got the PGA Tour staff who drive around in carts right outside the rope line. And if someone's unruly, they typically get taken care of before the player even says something. And when I say unruly, that's more like drunken disorderly than anything else. But this whole Brooks Bryson thing, I'm glad Coach said what he did, because this could have been nipped in the bud a long, long time ago. My question through it all, because remember this always, it's a membership organization. So Commissioner Monahan's protecting his members with the enforcement of this rule. That's his job. But here's the thing. If we're serious about this player impact program, and this is getting as much traction as what we think it is, Bryson and Brooks, Bryson especially, Tiger aside, should be absolutely killing it in the player impact program, because that's all folks are talking about. You turn on social media and it's Bryson this, Bryson that. Every article that's being written, not every, the large majority of them, when Bryson's a factor in an event, which is regularly, there's something said about Bryson. So I'm keen to see what that algorithm, whatever it is now adding up. And I'm keen to see the results at the end of all of this, because I think what began as a tiff, this stuff happens because you got testosterone-laden, ego-driven multimillionaires who are trying to beat each other. Then you have a little bit of a head bumping. This is normal in the locker room. Then that perpetuates itself. Then people suddenly realize, hold on, my sponsors like Michelob can get a whole lot out of this if I give away a few cases of beer. And so then they start to work this, and then this thing starts to snowball. So I'm keen now to see what the actual end game is. Commissioner Monahan's just gone, okay, easy, Tiger. but I'm keen to see where we're going to be in the rankings at the end of it all.
There's a lot to unwrap here. First off, it's not cases of Michelob, Mark. It's cases of Arnold Palmer Spike. That's what would smooth this all over. KP, I think one of the fascinating things. Okay, so you hear all sorts of arguments about this. Is it bullying? Oh, these guys are so soft. What about other sports? Golf is not like other sports, right? I mean, I think that is clear. In no other sport do they ask you to be silent. Maybe I guess in tennis. In few other sports are you able to get as close to the players as you can in golf. This really is kind of its own beast out there.
It is. And I kind of try to make that point on Twitter today of saying, like, imagine Roger Goodell holding a press conference saying that if you call Patrick Mahomes Aaron or Russell or Dak or whatever, at any point during a Chiefs game, you get ejected from the game. That would be, we would wonder if it was a parody, right? And that is not, people took it like, oh, you're comparing apples and oranges. Well, I wasn't comparing anything. I was actually contrasting the two sports and showing how different golf is than baseball or basketball or football. And I just, it's a ridiculous situation. We're talking about ejecting fans from an event because they're calling this guy by the wrong name, even though I think that's like the right move from Monahan. I think he's right about it. But it's such a, like, if you like step back and say like literally what's actually happening, it sounds absurd, right? It sounds just like this insane thing. But I think that I think it was the right call. And I think that I actually disagree with Coach about, Bryson did say at Memorial, I'm flattered by this. I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. But his misstep, his problem, and I think this is where Coach and I probably agree, is that he said that, and then he also was having people thrown out of the tournament, right? And so you're like, oh, well, which one is it? And people see through that. People that follow golf or any, they're not idiots. I mean, there's some idiots, but the people that are like tuned into this stuff are not morons thinking like, oh, like Bryson had something to do with those people getting ejected. So he's saying one thing and doing another. And I think that is kind of people's problem with Bryson, is that he says one thing and does another. And it just, the whole thing feels disingenuous, not just with this, but with a lot of different things that he kind of involves himself with. So I think to me, that's the issue here. And again, I always go back to this, and feel free to disagree, because I think there's an argument to be made on the other side. I always go back to, like, has Bryson ever shown humility? Has Bryson ever said, man, I shouldn't have said that. That was bad. That was wrong. Even the thing at the Open Championship with my driver sucks. He never really said, like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, that was my bad. I'm sorry for that. He never shows any, like if he came out and was like, I said the Brooks thing didn't bother me, the Brooksie thing. It actually does. And I'm really trying to mature to the point where I can get over that and move past that. It would be really bad for him in the short term, but I think in the long term, people would respect that, because that's a very human thing, right? So I don't know. I have a ton of thoughts on it. Those are some of them. And yeah, I think that Monahan, I mean, the Ryder Cup, I think this like kind of comes to a head maybe at the Ryder Cup. I'm glad the Ryder Cup's not in Europe this year. I mean, what would that be like for him? It would be insane. So I don't know. That's a ton of thoughts that I'm just kind of throwing out there.
What Captain Stricker should do is put them together so someone can shout Brooksie, and it might just be at Brooksie. And that would work out pretty well. Kyle, you nailed it there. I think that disingenuous is a great descriptor. And just to sort of build on that a little bit, from the word go, I mentioned that I thought this was sort of playground. It was infantile a little bit. But then I started to think maybe there's, a little extra something to this. Maybe there is trying to, garner Twitter, social media, whatever it is, interest. But it has gotten to a place where people just need to grow up and go, all right, this thing's done now. But the problem is, you don't get the toothpaste back in the tube. I don't care if Commissioner Monahan says, all right, you're going to get tossed if you call Bryson Brooksie or vice versa. Even though you've got security and such, the fans have now bought in. The fans have T-shirts, for Pete's sake, Rick. And so now they're in their camps, and just
Rick's the problem.
Don't drag me into this.
Like this Auburn, Georgia, or Ohio State, Michigan. This is going to go on for a long while. I think this thing, we haven't seen the end of it, in my opinion.
Mark, who do you think has the most power to end it? Because I think we're all sick of talking about it. We all want to see it end. Who can end it?
Both of them together in the Ryder Cup uniform, getting up there together in front of the media, or not even in the press conference in a contrived situation, at the flash area. You know what that's like over there. People in the scrum everywhere, just standing next to each other going, guys, this is past us now. Let's put this to bed. Let's get beyond the red, white, and blue. Because then you're bringing in something bigger than all of us in representing your country, where you take it away from the individual and you make it more, the unified goal. That's my opinion.
I think you're onto something. And something KP said hit me, really kind of struck me about Bryce's humility, because coming from the world of professional wrestling, like I did in my 20s, and I mentioned babyface and heels, the one thing you want more than anything, and I believe Bryson is this guy, is that the more popular you are, the more money you make, and the more longevity you have in your career. I believe he is so inspired by attention, and he loves the attention so much. Just look at the first tee on Sunday when he had his caddy pull the iron out of the bag, put it back in, grab the driver, just so he could go, yeah, because he loves it, because his ego is so big. But with that, you cannot then walk off the course when you're making millions of dollars. You just played one of the greatest events of all time, and then get into it yet again with a fan who calls you by name. I've told this to kids all the time when I speak to high schools and colleges. If somebody is razzing you, that means they care. If somebody is razzing you, that means deep down they really like you. And in this instance, I think people want to be like Bryson. I think people want to do what Bryson can do, but they cannot. And if Bryson thinks like that, then I think it changes everything, and also get some good people in your camp that gives you advice, and they're not yes men. Get the yes men, and then get the people in and say, listen, Bryson, grow up. You can be the number one attraction in all of golf. You can be. But you've got to change how you address things and how your ego works.
He's the number 2 attraction. Let's be honest. Tiger's always going to be one.
But it's, I've been texting with some people on this. Like, we are one incident away from just a complete meltdown. Like, it's not, I agree with Mark. Like, he is, like, other than Tiger, like, he's, the views that we get, this podcast, anything that I write, it's like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. But it's not, it's kind of like a car wreck, right? It's not like, oh, this is amazing. It's, oh, I just need to see what happened. And that's just, I don't know how sustainable that is in the long term. I want to hear your opinion, Rick.
So the idea that this is still going on is kind of surprising. I just don't know what the end game is anymore. I thought the end game was naturally to pair them together at Torrey Pines under the cover of, here are our last 3 U.S. Open champions. Everybody kind of, they play 2 rounds together. Nothing happens on the course, and everybody just has a good laugh, and that's your natural ending point. And there's never been a conclusion to this. And the problem is Brooks has no incentive. Producer Jacob's absolutely right. Brooks has no incentive or motivation to end this. Like, why would he come out and say anything? I just don't think he wants to. I think that the tour has to do something. I think they have to start ejecting people, but I think that this has been screwed up by everybody every step of the way.
I want to feel bad for Bryson, but he makes it, like, because I think a lot of it is kind of crappy. It's kind of nonsense. Most of it. He makes it very difficult for you to feel bad for him, just in the way he now he won't even talk to the media. It's like, man, like, when you go out for 5 years and act like, hey, I'm smarter than everybody, and now I'm bigger than everybody, and now I'm longer than everybody, and I'm going to kind of insinuate that and talk about UFOs when I have no idea what I'm talking about. Like this is kind of what you're reaping on the other side of it whenever, when people kind of start chirping back at you. So I want to feel bad for him because I think a lot of it sucks and there's a lot of sadness in there. But he makes it really, really hard to have that emotion just based on the way he talks and acts and carries himself.